Good evening and welcome to Blowing the Whistle. My name is Ted Keelan and I am honored to have joining me in the studio tonight Mario Ingoglia. He just counseled me on that before we started taping and I messed it up.
How you doing, folks?
Michael Hart, both community access producers. Michael Hart does People's Church and Mario does the Metro Variety Show.
Right.
And of course I do Blowing the Whistle. We're all gathered here today because the primary is coming up here in Illinois on Super Duper Tuesday for 20 states of the Union, and we support Ron Paul. And we thought it was interesting the other night when we realized that how the variety of people that support Ron Paul, and actually the numbers that aren't really being accurately represented in media. So before I use up the entire time pontificating about why I'm voting for Ron Paul, if you guys would like to say a few words before I introduce our special guest.
Michael, would you like to speak?
Well, I'd like to start by with a little disclaimer that I'm not representing People's Church here, but I'm here as a private citizen, and I am very much in favor of Ron Paul's presidential bid. And in fact, there's some firsts that are associated with that I would share. This is I've maintained a very much of a political neutrality myself for a long time. I haven't voted since 1976 when I was very active in Jimmy Carter's presidential campaign, enough that I even got an invitation to his inauguration. And he was one of these long shot candidates like Ron Paul at the time. Everybody was kind of saying Jimmy who in the early days, and he turned around to occupy the White House, and I find that that there hasn't been a candidate since Jimmy Carter's campaign that has said these things that Ron Paul is saying. And I hear Ron Paul often compared with Barry Goldwater, which they had some similarities, but there are also some very serious differences, particularly in military adventures and things like that. And I didn't see Jimmy Carter necessarily run the way he campaigned, but he said the same things when he was running as in many cases as Ron Paul does, and that was my attraction. In addition to the first time since 1976, this is also will be, and I'm all registered and ready to go. This is the first time I've ever voted for a Republican. And I can even go a step farther with my wife, who's in the studio today. She's sitting back there. She didn't want to be on camera today, but she has never voted in an election ever. And she had heard Ron Paul and what he stands for and what he's speaking about the issues. And she is going to vote for the first time ever for Ron Paul. Our draw with Ron Paul is his idea of small government. You know, we've heard a lot from different candidates on the idea of small government, but it is always except for this. You know, you'd have the Republicans claiming that they were for small government, but then wanting these to build up military with these military adventures around the world, and these huge police forces and homeland security operations before that word was ever used, and to make a government big, and it's this idea of a constitutional republic that Ron Paul would like to limit the role of government in our lives that has caused me to I guess come out of all these years of political hibernation to support him in this upcoming election.
Excellent. Yeah.
Very good, Michael.
Well said. And Mario.
Well, Ted, I'm delighted to be on your show with my friends here that I've actually have bumped into both of you in my business as your tailor and servant. And as a small business owner, I can give you a perspective that I think the Republican Party's always looked out for the smaller guy and always try to look out for the business growth in this country. And it'd be great to get another Republican in there that, as Ron Paul, would be a candidate of choice simply because he's for growth and not dependency on social services. And I feel that being that he's in the medical profession, and bringing more than 4,000 kids into this world, I don't know the exact number, but I think that's very honorable. And he seems to, when I watch him speak, and I love your paintings, of course, of him, he seems like a pretty realistic person, more of a human being than just a part of the machine, so to speak. And I like his unique appeal. He is an undercurrent that's being noticed. The internet is really digging him, and I think people are starting to be made aware of his uniqueness as a Republican, and that's what intrigued me towards, my entertaining the vote for him in this case.
Well, and don't forget that it's not just about the Republicans too, because Kucinich has come out in support now that he's given up his bid, and they have actually a lot of ideas in common.
A lot in common.
Right.
And it really gets beyond this sort of double-sided coin politics that we have, this partisan politics. There's just some things that people agree should be done. Since you mentioned it, any and all information about this painting, and I unveiled it at the PAC, which will also take me to our special guest next, but it's at ronpaulpainting.com. And all the information on the auctions for the Giclée prints that are being made about this is all there. So ronpaulpainting.com. And at this point, I would like to bring out our special guest, Cal Mabus. Cal.
Hi, folks. How you doing, Ted?
Yeah. How you doing, buddy?
Good, good.
Hi, Cal.
Glad to meet you.
How's that yard sign treating you?
Yeah, I still get a lot of good
I like
comments from my yard signs.
controversial yard signs. You guys know
7
that.
liars left.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
after here in a few more days, we'll see how many's left after that. But you brought me on tonight to talk to you a little bit about the Illinois Patriots Political Action Committee.
Right.
And how that came about. The Illinois Patriots Political Action Committee came about because of the Ron Paul meetup group, which I was fortunate to get involved in, which came about because of the very first Republican debate that I saw. And I was just about to leave the room to shut the TV off because all I heard was the same old flip-flopping, lying crap that we've always got. And I could see that nothing was going to change. There's going to be nothing different. It's going to be politics as usual. So I was getting ready to head out of the room, and they asked this Ron Paul a question. Of course, at that time, I couldn't even tell you who that person was. All I heard was something different, something that was what we kind of know already what's going on in our nation, in our heart, that we've seen these things. I have a lot of people tell me, well, with the older folks, they're not going to change their ways. But they know this stuff for many more years than we've known it, the younger generations. And it's just now coming to the surface where we have someone that's willing to speak of these types of issues in truth. And so Ron Paul caught my attention, and that caused me to look into him a little bit more. Actually, my son, my 24-year-old son, Zachary, which will be coming on here shortly, he had told me about him a couple months earlier and asked me if I'd heard of Ron Paul. and told me what he stood for. And and of course, I was, pretty apathetic at that time. I didn't give up on politics, could care less. And I pretty much told him, like my father's already told me, oh, what can you do about it, son? What can you do about these issues? There's nothing you can do. Forget it. They're going to do what they want to do. So just forget it. So when I heard Ron Paul, I actually called my son up and said to him, have you heard of this Ron Paul? And he goes, that's the guy I was telling you about 2 months ago. And so that was pretty exciting. And he told me the website to go look at. And we did a good extensive week or two's worth of research on the guy, as well as look at some of the other candidates that were coming up in the GOP. And here was a man of truth and integrity, a guy that had never voted against the Constitution in 10 terms in Congress. Here's a guy that never taken a government-paid junket. Here's a candidate, finally, that had never even sought to raise his own congressional pay. Ron Paul's also never, what do I want to say here?
He's always giving it back to surplus.
Yeah, and he's always returned money back to his congressional fund, as far as that is. So these things were important to me, that we would actually have someone that was trying to take care of the people's money, that he was actually trying to govern according to something, some moral value or some rights or something. And it wasn't until I learned more about what he stood as far as what the Constitution stood for. And the Constitution gives government certain limited powers, and those powers were given to them to protect the people, not to commit usury upon them through, like today, our Federal Reserve, as well as our monetary system. So there's a lot of issues, not even going into the war. And the war is a whole other issue. The troops need to come home. So anyway, from all that, through the meetup group, the Illinois Patriots PAC was established, and that involves many of the meetup members. We did this because we knew this was going to be an ongoing movement, and there's many other people out there that think like Ron Paul, and the movement's growing more and more all the time. And what we don't want to lose is this momentum that we have to restore constitutional government, to support candidates that also support the Constitution. So we want to continue building this group. 2 years after this election, we have state elections. So this is a movement from top down, bottom up. So we want to keep that going. So anyway.
What's the website for the PAC?
It's Illinois Patriots PAC, PAC.org, IllinoisPatriotsPAC.org. So anyway, with that all being said, check out Ted's painting online, folks. You can also see it at eBay. Can you just Google or type in?
Ron Paul Painting.
Ron Paul Painting, yeah.
Or you can just put in ronpaulpainting.com. It's up to $300 already. And
Wow.
there's still
All right, I knew it
there's
would.
still a day left.
I think it's gonna
That's
fly.
twice what I sell them for in the gallery.
That's great.
That's just 18 by 24 print of it.
So if there's just a few spammers out there, as they said in the beginning of this campaign,
Right.
then why would Ron Paul continue to raise the millions that he's raised? And why would supporters continue to support projects from the grassroots like this for a candidate that's so-called fringe? I mean, whenever we have a candidate that is bringing to us those values that this nation was founded upon by our founding fathers, how can that be fringe? I mean, we seem to be getting this media now that twists and turns what was once good into evil, and that which is now evil is good. So
The Orwell thing about
yeah, I think that's
when the truth becomes
what verse is that?
what is that?
Which
When the truth becomes
Can't get it off the top of my head right
I
now.
have been saying it forever, and now I can't think of it because
So-
I'm on the spot. Becomes an illegal act or something like that. Then you know it's time for revolution or something like that.
Anyway,
When telling the truth is punishable by law.
so this has become important to a
It's
lot
from
of people.
1980.
Well, how did the revolution thing tag up on Ron Paul, out of curiosity? Is it because of his change for government? I'm just curious I just kind of want to know.
well,
if
How did
anybody-
the revolution
the
tag get
Patriots.
Okay.
associated to
Okay.
Ron Paul?
I'm
Well,
following
that was
you.
way before myself. So
Early government.
Yeah. Someone else might be able to answer that better than I am.
Well, it's about the spirit of '76.
Okay.
It's about what the founding fathers believed, literally. That's what he
Okay.
says.
Well,
that's
true,
what they
true.
believed,
Yeah,
you know, in liberty, actual liberty, you know, and it was founded on a certain amount of wealth and free market, and sort of people guarded their homes with their, you know, maybe some people say this is bygone era, but I don't think the Constitution is that old, especially if we've never really.
Well, I think Ron Paul stated that freedom is relatively a new concept.
Right.
And
Right. That's why this isn't going back to the old days,
Right.
because this is relatively new and we haven't had it operating correctly.
pretty much lost it as soon as we got it, actually.
So they say it's like a continuation of the American Revolution.
Yeah, that's true.
Finish the job.
So
For
thanks for bailing me out.
Can I ask you one more?
That's what they say.
Can I ask you one more thing, and then we'll shift over to your son?
Sure.
What is his current office that he has in government?
Ron Paul's a 10-term congressman in Texas.
Okay,
And so
and
he's
he's from Texas.
He's no amateur.
14th district.
Yeah,
Okay,
14th
so
district.
we're
Yep.
getting this out so people will hear
Right,
that.
right, good.
And his other credentials are that he's a physician,
Also a
OBGYN.
Okay.
Yep, OBGYN.
and
And
the
he was a flight
gentleman.
surgeon,
Okay, and he's about what, 70 something?
72.
Is he the oldest candidate out there, or?
So,
No, John
John
McCain's
McCain.
also
Oh, is
72.
McCain older?
can't you tell?
Well, I mean, I don't know. I'm just, I think people.
Ron's got a lot of energy.
You know, and I have
If
a lot
they're
of people-
watching the show, and these are questions that I think are kind of informative on making a choice.
Oh, right.
You know, I didn't, you know.
I have a lot of
know
people
all-
ask
No, I
me
mean
about-
just from watching McCain.
Yeah. So
I have a lot of people ask me about, well, what about his age, you know? And
it's
like,
good to get that out to the people.
What happens whenever, I mean, if he becomes president and then he dies, you know? And I like to
Well, Ford was
think
pretty
that,
old.
I would like
you
to
know.
think that
And
a
Reagan was very
person
old,
like
too.
that is going to have a staff, a cabinet, a surrounding of like-minded
Right.
constitutionalists
Right.
around him to fill those shoes. So
So we
anyway.
have people in waiting.
I would like to introduce everyone to my son, Zachary Mabus.
Hello, how you doing, folks? I'm Zachary Mabus, Calvin's son. I joined the Ron Paul meetup group, and this kind of all spiraled out of control into what we now have, the Illinois Patriots Political Action Committee. I'm here to let everybody know why I support Ron Paul. Ron Paul, to me, represents what the young, and there's a lot of young people like myself that have joined this revolution, if you want to call it, to show their distrust and their disfavor of what the government is laying on their laps for generations to come, and that's part of the reason why I support Ron Paul, and it's also just had a baby girl recently, and I've realized, you know, what's her future looking like? What's her situation going to be like when she's older? And those are the things that really got me involved in politics, because like everybody else, like you, like I've never voted before, never cared. Everybody was always crooked, you know, that kind of thing, and never really wanted to get involved. But when you hear Ron Paul speak, I mean, here's a guy who doesn't try to put a little spin on it to just for votes. You know, he's not a guy who will try to put a cherry on top just to get somebody to think, oh, you know, just for applause points. He's very straightforward and to the point. And since I guess this is a blowing the whistle show,
Go for it.
yeah, well,
Blow the whistle on something.
yeah, well, what I want to say is the American people, the way I see it and the way I research, have lost their idea of what the government should be doing in their lives. And we all know that. Everybody thinks that, well, the government should be involved in education. Well, it's proven that don't work. Look at No Child Left Behind, for instance. You know, we've lost the spirit of liberty, which says that if I don't have the power to tell you to do something, you can't delegate that power for an upper official to do to me, you know, or to do to you. I can't tell them to do it for me. So and so, you know, the people in the United States, you know, they don't understand that concept anymore, and so therefore Ron Paul's seen as a fringe candidate. And I just wanted to tell people and remind them, do some research on, how we got this far, how we got into the mess that we're in, economically and foreign policy wise, to understand where Ron Paul is coming from. Because, I mean, you can't just get Ron Paul's ideas in a soundbite like the debates and all that. I mean, it's very, it's very deep, and he's very intellectual. And as far as what you're saying about him being old, well, the guy rides 12 miles a day on a bike, and he's a doctor. He takes real good care of himself, so I don't think he's going to be croaking anytime.
Another 20 years out of him, I bet.
Yeah, oh yeah, exactly. So, my main concern is, and what a lot of people, they argue with him, in the debates about foreign policy matters, why do they attack us? The reason, see, Ron Paul's philosophy is, what I've noticed, is instead of trying to put a Band-Aid over an issue, he'll say, well, what are the reasons why these things happen? And people, not a lot of politicians do that nowadays. They think, okay, well, we'll just give that incentive, or we'll give that incentive. But he's saying, well, where are you going to get the money? Where's all this coming from? And so as far as the foreign policy and economics, everybody knows today is a day where people aren't really sure about, our economic issues. People are afraid about where our economy is going. And here we got a candidate who not only predicted back in '83 the '87 collapse. Now he's predicting and has been saying and warning, waving the flag, telling everybody, hey, we need to correct this issue. Here are the issues why we're here. Here are the things that we need to do in order to fix this problem. So, and then he gets laughed at, these ideas. So, and people really need to study about who Ron Paul is, because this is a very important election. People say he may not win, but this is a time for people to stand up, and even if he doesn't win, to take this on to your local officials, your state officials. And so that's what we're in this for. We're in this not just for Ron Paul, but we're in for that message that he brings, and that's the message of liberty, that a lot of American people have lost that message. So that's why I'm here. So
Very well said.
yeah.
Ted, I heard him say something that I can give you a personal view of European life, because I'm from Europe. And when I was in Europe in 1998, my cousins and I were walking around my mother's old vineyard that now my family in Italy own, because we don't live there anymore, but it's still in the family. And I said, what's going on with your money? I hear you're going to become a part of the euro in Italy, And that euro in 1998, my cousins were saying, well, we want to invest some money in America, in your stock market, and we know that your money's stronger than our money, because we had to actually do some banking over there with my parents. And which is very interesting now, because the euro dollar is what? More worth than our money.
Well, actually, our money is actually worth less than Canadian money now, which is insane. I mean, people don't even look at that anymore. They don't even realize.
Right,
that.
but this is 98 to 08, and that's 10 years.
Right.
So I'll let Ted redirect the show at this point.
Okay.
Oh, I was just getting a sign. We got about 5 minutes left, and we got at least a couple more people that want to talk.
Okay, Ted,
So-
can I introduce
Yes.
everyone to District 18 delegate for Ron Paul, Philip Cristofanelli?
Yeah, delegate. Why don't you maybe tell us a little bit about that real quick?
All right. I'll just do a little public service announcement here about how the election process works in Illinois. When people go to vote, you get this list of names. And you'll see Ron Paul and Rudy Giuliani and John McCain. And you vote for whoever you like. I mean, it's nice, but that vote there, it means nothing. Where the real votes are in the delegates. You get a second column in your ballot, and it'll say vote for 4 delegates. And usually people will pick their presidential choice and the 4 delegates that correspond. And what those delegates do, when the delegates that get the most votes, they go to the Republican National Convention, and there they cast the vote for the presidential nominee that they correspond with. So let's say if I were elected for Ron Paul, I would go to the convention and vote for Ron Paul, and it's those votes at the convention that actually determine the nominee. So you got to make sure that you vote for your delegates, and if you support Ron Paul, you have to support the Ron Paul delegates, because that's the vote that really matters.
And speaking of voting, we're really trying to push the idea of the primary here in Illinois on Super Duper Tuesday, February 5th. And you can vote at any time by going down to the elections office on the first floor of the Sangamon County building if you're registered. It's too late to register now if you're not registered. But any time between this moment even and February 5th, you can place your vote. And is there anything else you want to say about that real quick? We got about 3 minutes.
Is there also alternate delegates as well that need to be voted for?
Right, there's 4 alternate delegates that you'll vote for in the next column, so 4 in each.
So not just
Yeah,
not
the
just
names
vote,
will be
but
next.
vote for the delegates too. Vote, definitely vote, and then vote for the delegates.
Right.
Don't leave them off.
And there is a correlation that you'll read.
Right, it'll say
It's
Philip
all up front.
Crispinelli, semicolon, Ron Paul.
Okay, very good.
We got about
That's
a couple
very
minutes left.
key.
We want to introduce.
And let me introduce one of our meetup members. We grow so quick that names keep slipping me. I can't keep up with everybody. Robin, yes, Robin, come on in. And
Now, you guys have said it pretty much in a nutshell, but I will say I was a veteran, and veterans know that we're the last ones that want to fight. We only do it because we have to. We may not like what you say, but we'll die defending it. And we weren't supposed to be there in the first place. We need to get out, and these guys are just refusing to admit it. I mean, it's insanity what McCain's going, like a 100-year war. We can't afford the ones we're in. It's bringing the boys home. And being a small business owner, property rights is an important thing. And the last thing I'll say is, when's the last time you ever heard a politician say he'd take a cut in pay because he ain't going to have as much to do? Because he wants to reduce his powers and to give it back like it is supposed to be 1/3, not 2/3 or whatever he's saying now, Bush. Well, that's me.
Thank you all very much. See, this is all of us. Let's come together as we say goodbye and show the group that was able to brave the horrible weather we had to deal with tonight. You've been watching Blowing the Whistle, and my name's
Nice to
Ted
meet you.
Keelan. BlowingTheWhistle.org, you'll find links to all the stuff we talked about, RonPaulPainting.com, IllinoisPatriotsPAC.org, and all the rest of it. Thank you very much. RonPaul2008.com.
Go Ron Paul.
Ron Paul.
Here you go again, brother.